Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's fundamentally interesting to the French, actually, because in France, they don't ever talk about, you know, essentially finding terroir, because it's all laid out on a map. In Oregon, the winemakers all think about finding terroir. Like, what vineyard inspires you? What vineyard do you want to work with? Because it isn't laid out on a map. There isn't a appellation controle that says this is Grand Cru, this is Premier Cru, this is Vlossak. That doesn't exist here. So essentially, winemakers become inspired. And I don't know why exactly, but we all do. We all are inspired. We go to a place and we just think, oh, that sings my tune. I like that song. I like what I hear. I like what I see. I like what I taste. And then we're drawn to these terroirs for different reasons, sometimes because they're so different from something we already have, we're already familiar with. And so we go to these different regions. So if you look at the paradigm that I constructed of soil type, soil depth, how hot is it in the day and how cold is it at night, essentially that means that primarily as you work east and west in the valley, not so much north and south, but east and west, the wine profile changes dramatically. So the McMinnville AVA will have the darkest fruited, most savory spiced, most structured, but also with the most acidity in the wines. These are essentially like winter, sit by the fireplace, have beef stew kind of wines, or cassoulet. They're rustic, they're wild, they're intense, they're not about finesse, they're about that kind of stuff. And as you go farther, the farthest east, essentially the Dundee Hills, you have the wines that are the prettiest, the most seductive, the round, the red fruited. They smell fantastic. They're charming in their own right. And so what you essentially end up is with personalities. As you move north and south, there are changes. Essentially, the Willamette Hills is directly below the Amil Carlton district. And I actually have a vineyard way up in the Amil Carlton district and all the way through the Willamette Hills. I find that the structure isn't so much that the basic structure is different, but that within their personality, they have different things to share. So up north, like at Shea, I find that Shea has all these floral components, especially darker floral components. It has all these nuances of distinctly different flavors, especially a blend of red and black fruit in almost a unique way that you see lots of different things going on in a vineyard like Shea. It's probably my most detailed of all the vineyards I work with. As I come into the Willamette Hills, I still have red and black fruits, but they're more frank. They're more like, here's what I am. Do you like it? Great. You don't like it? Great. I can't be anything else. This is what I am. And so there's a kind of frank honesty that I find in the Willamette Hills. Do I like Shea? I love Shea. It ages ridiculously long. It's got all kinds of details. When I want, a wine that reminds me of the best of Burgundy, which is all about detail and ageability, it's in Oregon, that translates to Shea for me. But if I want a wine to go with a beautiful piece of salmon, that's a very precise set of flavors. There's nothing like vineyards in the Willamette Hills. I love these wines with like a piece of salmon or a duck breast because they're very precise, they're very defined flavors. And the wines here tend to have that kind of precision and definition. They tend to have more spice qualities because of the Van Duzer influence. And they tend to be a little bit more rustic down here. Again, the Van Duzer, the cooling at night, tends to add a little edginess to them. And so the personalities of these different regions talk to me. And I become enamored with these vineyards with all these different profiles, probably because they're different. And it's that difference. It's like, do you want all your friends to be exactly the same? I don't. I have some friends that are charming and some friends that are kind of irritating, but they're all fun to be around at various points. And when I think about food, I don't just eat grilled salmon or cassoulet, but I eat all different kinds of things. And I think about my wines many times in terms of, well, is this a duck breast wine, or is this a cassoulet wine, or is it a grilled salmon wine? Is it a Boeuf Bourguignon wine? Is it a lamb shank wine? And for me, I have wine that goes really well with all those things. They're not all the same wine. But in a way, then my friends at the dinner table, I can pair the food and the wine, and they get along, and they have fun together. And to me, that's how I think about wine. It's part of a meal.